That thing I did. I just wrote monologues to go between the songs. And so I wrote this one about Mary. And said, I wonder if Mary realizes the power and the authority and the majesty she cradled in her arms that first Christmas. I mean, did she realize those little fingers that were wrapped around hers were the same that had scooped out oceans and formed rivers? And those little feet were the same feet that had walked on streets of gold and been worshipped by angels. And then I was writing this thing and I thought, came the part, and the child she delivered that first Christmas would one day on a cross deliver her. And I noticed that. I thought, well, that could work in a song. And then, so we did the program, and my pastor got up every night and would repeat this little thing that I'd written about, go between songs. And so I went home and started working on just questions. If I could sit down with Mary, what would I ask her? You know, and the only questions that made the song were the ones that rhymed. I have a lot of questions. Like, what was it like raising God? What was it like changing God's diapers? What was it like looking down and God was nursing at your breast? What was it like teaching the Word of God to talk? What was it like being his little brothers, following him through school? Well, now when Jesus was in my class, he made straight A's. For sure, he wrote the book. And my mother and I talked about this all my whole life. My mother was something else. My mother, no one could keep the law like my mother. And no one could break it like me. And my mother, all my life, we talked about that. You know, what was it like, the human side of Jesus, you know? And Mary, she was just a little girl when Gabriel showed up, you know. My college professor said she's about 13. And of course, back then they had to get started early because they were dead by 40. Now we got medicine, people don't know when to die. A few of y'all can lay down. But so Gabriel shows up in her room, she's playing with her dolls, picture it. And Gabriel says, guess what, Mary? You're going to birth a baby. And she said, but I've never known a man. Remember in Luke 2, she said, I've never known a man. Which was a very good start of the conversation. And the angel explained to her how this would happen. And she said, okay, be it unto me as you say. And she starts singing. I was reading this one day on my back porch with my dogs, and I was telling them, this ain't no time for a concert. You have an angel in the room. Ask him some questions. I think the first thing I'd ask is, can you run by my mother's room? She is going to need an explanation. You've already made the trip. One more stop ain't going to kill you. But Gabriel did stop by and tell Joseph. Remember him? There's an interesting character. You know, he never said anything worth writing down. Not one word in that Bible came from Joseph. And it ain't hard to make the Bible be in the room and say something. Even the cattle got in that they were lowing. But not Joseph. So Mary, and he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer because he takes a 9-month pregnant 13-year-old girl, sticks her on a donkey, and they ride 90 miles. No wonder her water broke. And then he gets to Bethlehem and he forgets to book a room. Don't you know that was horrible for her? Cobblestone floor, and a few moo cows staring at her. And mute Joseph in the family. No epidural. No mother's hand to hold. And she got to watch Lord be born. And then she got to watch him grow up, which was kind of cool. And then when he was 12, he ditched her for a couple of days, which I love that part. I thought we could be good friends. You know what? They were lousy parents. Have you ever lost your kid for 4 days before you got to look for him? The Bible says they're 2 days into their journey home when it dawned on them. They left God back in Jerusalem. Can you imagine the panic in their hearts when they realized they were 2 days into their journey home and they lost Jesus? I can see Mary running up to Joseph. Have you seen Jesus? No, I thought he was with you. Oh my God, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And then they have to hightail it back to where they were, Jerusalem, and they found him at the temple where they left him for 4 days, 2 days out, 2 days back. 4 days that little boy didn't have to bathe. And she walked up to him and said, "You've driven us crazy. We've been looking for you." And he says, oh, cool line. He said, "But don't you know? I must be about my Father's business." And she bought it. That line never worked for me. I tried it as soon as I learned it. I told Mama, "Don't you know?" "Yeah, I know. Get in that house, I'll show you your Father's business." Because my mama knew I wasn't virgin born. But if anybody knew Jesus was virgin born, Mary knew it. We have to take that by faith. She could remember the angel. And then we don't hear from him between 12 and 30. I mean, good night. God's in the house. Keep a journal. I'm not ready. It stopped. Anyway. So here he is. He's 30 years old. Finally, he's back in the picture. He's at a wedding. They run out of wine. Mary walks up and says, "They run out of wine." And he says, "Woman!" Let's stop there for a minute. You know, if you're going to call your mom a woman, you better be God. He said, "Woman, what am I going to do with you? It's not my time." But it was his time, wasn't it? I guess he didn't know everything. Which is true. When he came to earth, he became one of us. He couldn't know everything. He would walk into a room and say, "Have y'all seen Peter?" Right? My dad believes he knew who he was the second he was conceived. I said, well, then he was faking those diaper changes. He became one of us so he could pay for our sin. He became one of us so we could relate to him. He'd been through stuff we've been through. Some of y'all been divorced. So was he. Did you know that? Jeremiah 3, God divorced Israel. God couldn't pastor a Baptist church. He has been through what you've been through, y'all. He has hurt like we have hurt. And he still has use for us. The Bible's full of freaks just like us. King David, if he'd had Prozac, we'd never had Psalms. He was up one Psalm, down the next. Up one Psalm, down the next. Prozac would have leveled that out. And look what we would have missed. Because broken pots spill more water, y'all. You know, David, he was a broken man like the rest of us. I had a bus driver one weekend tell me, "I'd love to come back to God, but I've done too much." I said, "Have you ever gotten a woman pregnant and murdered her husband to cover it up?" He said, "Not yet." I said, "Well, King David did. And in Psalm 51, he came back to God. And then God said about him even after that, he said, he's a man after my own heart." And Mary watched all that. I just can't wait to sit down and have a cup of coffee with her. Unless she's Mormon, then I'll have a Sprite. Here's the song. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day walk on water? Buddy wrote the music for this show. Mary, did you know that your baby
child that you've delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby who gives sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know your baby boy will calm a storm with his hand? Did you know when you kiss your little babe, you've kissed the face of God? Mary, did you Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know that your baby boy, he's the Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know your baby boy will one day rule the nations? This sleeping child you're holding